Tom, a couple of different stories, but let's start with the one that broke this afternoon. Marie-Claude Nichols, that MNA from Vaudreuil, basically told Dominic Anglade to stuff it. She is not going to stay and sit as a Liberal. She's going to sit for the time being anyway as an independent. But what makes this even perhaps more concerning is it looks like, at least La Presse is reporting, that the Liberal Association that sees this leadership is a test that Anglade has failed. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's about time this little soap opera of Mrs. Nichols came to an end. And I can tell you that a big sigh of relief was the reaction around Anglade because she'd gone quite far. She had held out her hand. She said, okay, we're going to settle this. You can come back in. You don't have to have a critic portfolio. But since you said it's what you wanted, if you do want to have one, you can have back the ones you said you really liked, which were municipal affairs and housing. And then she came back and said, no, it's not even that. So she had all these meetings with Anglade and, these talks with her. And then she said, well, actually, I didn't really want any of that stuff. I wanted to be gone or you to be gone because I don't have confidence in you. At some point when you're the leader of a party, you've got to stand up and say, look, I get to make certain decisions like who the third speaker is going to be because that comes up on my radar screen and I get to make that decision. And no, you're not going to threaten me. You're not going to use some sort of indirect blackmail to say, well, you're going to quit if you don't get what you want. We've done everything we can. We've tried to open the door for you. We've met you halfway. We've put water in our wine. You still want to walk? And they had no choice but to say, okay, hasta la vista.
All I know is if I had voted for Marie-Claude Nichols and the Liberal Party, I would be incredibly peeved right now. So as far as we know, she's going to sit as an independent, but she's probably being courted as we speak by the CAQ and the Conservatives.
She won't go to either of those.
Okay.
She's already said that, so she'd look foolish if she did. I think that if I had voted for her, I'd also be incredibly peeved that she was no longer sitting with the party that I had voted for. But I'd be peeved that she wasn't able to understand that she doesn't get to act as the leader of the party, and she can't threaten the leader of the party with quitting if she doesn't get what she wants. The leader of the party gets to make a certain number of decisions. One of them is who she puts into that slot, and she's got to, like everybody else, just at some point understand that she doesn't get to make the decisions for and on behalf of the leader.
Well, what's up with MNAs in general thinking they can just make up the rules as they go, right? Like I'm feeling right now.
Here, Natasha Hall. Big high five to that one.
And I'm going to extend that to Quebec Solidaire and the PQ, who did not swear the oath to the king and now think they should be able to carry on.
Oops.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, they all swore an oath to the Constitution, and of course the Constitution includes our monarch, King Charles III, and his heirs and assigns, which means they have sworn to him. But they just didn't say that part of it out loud. They said the Constitution, which encompasses all of that. I think that wiser heads would have simply said, okay, that's the way we can do it in this day and age. But somehow, out of the blue, François Paradis, who is not even an MNA anymore, but historically the role of speaker continues until the new one gets sworn in. So even though he's not an MNA, he's still theoretically enabled to come up with decisions. He came up with a decision today about the Quebec Solidaire and PQ MNAs. Now, everybody understands, and Pascal Bérubé gave a smashing interview on this. This is one of the three PQ MNAs. He said, come on, let's stop kidding ourselves. Paradis' decision today was simply to take pressure off Madame Roy, who François Legault wants to come in as the next speaker, so she gets to say, oh, it's really not my decision, it's the decision of François Paradis.
Oh.
I see. But how does this ultimately play out, though, Tom? They won't be allowed to sit.
Well, let me make a slight prediction here. Paradis in his decision went so far as to say that he would make sure that the sergeant at arms, who is theoretically, the person who's physically in charge of security, would make sure to expel anybody who tried to get in without having been sworn in. So I'm willing to predict that we might see some spectacular events where a lot of these people who have been duly elected members of Quebec's National Assembly might just decide to, rush the gate as if they were going to, a Pink Floyd concert at the Big O and they didn't have tickets.
Oh. Good comparison.
What kind of visual is that going to set?
Fantastic. I mean, I'll buy popcorn to watch that one.
But again, I just find it completely outrageous that somehow you knew what you were signing up for. You knew what it entailed. You don't get to just make it up as you go.
No, but I also think that on a human level, all of these people, including René Lévesque, swore an oath to Queen Elizabeth II. She was the incarnation of that institution. She was there for more than 70 years, and nobody ever really pushed their luck on that one. But now that King Charles III is there, And they're just looking at this and saying, okay, it's now time for us to take a good hard look at this silly institution that requires us to say that because of somebody's birthright, we have to swear an oath of fealty to them with all of the history and the colonialism and the deportation of the Acadians.
Sure.
Just name it. And people are just saying, we're not doing it for Charles III. That's it.
Okay, but then fight to change the rules. You signed up for those rules.
Well, I think that this is where it's going to land, because at some point, push is going to come to shove. Legault is, feeling his oats. He's got this massive smashing majority. He's got all these seats in the National Assembly. He can just basically thumb his nose at everybody else. But at some point, the total lack of democracy in this, you have people who have been elected to be members of the National Assembly, and they're going to be denied that because even though they swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, which includes the King, they're going to be told that they can't sit, and they'll be turfed by the sergeant at arms. So there's going to have to be a way out of this thing. I think, by the way, Trudeau's right on this one. If you want to finesse it, just get it done quickly. Have a motion, or even better, an act of the National Assembly. Just put it in force. It's part of Quebec's constitution, and they could probably change it 1, 2, 3.
All right. I want to move on to what's going on in Ontario, where the government there, the provincial government, decided to use the notwithstanding clause, Tom, to keep support workers in the school system there from walking off the job.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, Justin Trudeau was asked to weigh in on this today and said the following.
Using the notwithstanding clause to suspend workers' rights is wrong. I know that collective bargaining negotiations are sometimes difficult, but it has to happen. It has to be done in a respectful, thoughtful way at the bargaining table. The suspension of people's rights is something that you should only do in the most exceptional circumstances, and I really hope that all politicians call out the overuse of the notwithstanding clause to suspend people's rights and freedoms.
Yeah, the most exceptional situations, Tom, like, for example, if you live in Quebec.
Yeah, if you wear a headscarf or a kippah, or, if you use English in the courts, which is actually a constitutional right. So I agree with Mr. Trudeau, frankly, that it is up to politicians to use whatever power they have to make sure that this doesn't happen. And what's the name of that one person in Canada who has the power to refer cases to the Supreme Court? It's Justin Trudeau. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's the only person in this country who has that power. He could talk with David Lametti, Member of Parliament for Verdun. People down there should remember when they're thinking about their vote the next time. He has the ability to refer this and Bill 21 and Bill 96. Oh, and while we're at it, Bill 40 about English language school boards. Refer them to the Supreme Court. Get a ruling. I'm not predicting that I know or saying that I know what the Supreme Court's going to do, but I have a fair sense that, a little bit like Mr. Trudeau just said, you can't use the notwithstanding clause across the board before something is even tested, before you even know if it goes against or not the Charter of Rights. And this is what Doug Ford's doing. He's stealing a page from François Legault. By the way, part of the reason why he's doing it is because he's in so much trouble for, this is Mr. Law and Order. He doesn't even respect the order to appear by the Commission of Inquiry, even though he's received his own personal invitation in the form of a summons, and he won't go. And he's going to try to fight it in the courts and stall it until the commission's over. So I think that Doug Ford is using this as, a typical distraction, but at the same time, it's unbelievable that this has become a thing in Canada where the Charter of Rights can just be steamrolled by any provincial government like Legault's CAQ here in Quebec, or, of course, the Conservatives of Doug Ford in Ontario.
You expecting a reaction from François Legault on this?
Well, I think that l'ami François will be very happy to have an example in another province, because next time somebody's going after him for simply suspending the enforcement and the application of the Charter, he can say, I'm not alone. Look, my friend Doug Ford's doing this as well. And that's why Trudeau should, instead of emoting about it, he should actually use the power that he has and refer it to the courts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, covered a lot of ground in there, Tom. Do you plan on having a viewing party when those PQ members in the QS decide to storm the National Assembly?
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think I might try to get up there, because having been a member of the National Assembly, I get this little pin that I can just walk in. I can actually go through the door of the M&As and get a seat in the gallery. So, yeah, I don't think I'll be allowed to bring in my popcorn, but maybe I'll be thinking about it.
Excellent.
Tom Mulcair back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter at 7:40. Thank you, Tom.